All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back with another...
A momentous episode of V8 Radio, Kevin.
Momentous episode of V8 Radio. I'm your host, Kevin Ostie, joined as always by our esteemed co-host, Mr. Mike Q-Ball Clark. And,
yes, sir.
Momentous is a good word, but I'm going to throw another one out there.
Let's have it.
And this was recommended to be used as an overselling adjective by our V8 Speed and Resto Shop technician, Trevor Spence. And I actually invented this word, but it seems appropriate. It's an enterthusing episode.
An enterthusing episode. I like it.
Yeah.
All right. Well played, sir. Well played.
I came out into the shop the other day, and I was apparently visually upbeat in some manner. And Trevor was asking what was going on, and I said I was enterthused.
All right.
I was combination
very nice.
Entertained and enthusiastic, and he said, that's got to be your word. So,
all right.
There you go.
Well, that is our word. It's in the books.
Yeah, there you go. So, we have a lot to cover, as usual, on this episode. But before we do, we typically start these off with some form of automotive trivia. In which we discuss the question at the head of the show, and then we reveal the always riveting answer at the end of the show. So, do you happen to have any automotive trivia laying around that you dragged out for this one?
I do have an automotive trivia that I've dragged out for this one, sir.
Right on.
All right, here we go. As you know, and we will talk about this, we just got back from the SEMA show.
Correct.
The momentous SEMA show. And I heard a little piece of information over there, and I thought it was interesting, and I wanted to throw it out there. And I'm sure you probably know, but for the three other people that don't, we're gonna throw this down on them.
All right.
A lot of people know that the first SEMA show was in the basement of Dodger Stadium. I think it was 67.
Yep.
Something like that. How many exhibitors were there at the first SEMA show?
This is a great question because, and I think I know where you're going with this question. While we were at the SEMA show, there was an individual whose name was Troy, who was standing on a spinning display with a yellow Camaro.
Right.
And he was a hired gun to keep kind of the crowd engaged a little bit as they walked through that grand lobby, and he was using this as one of his points. Is this where you heard it?
Maybe.
The only reason why I bring that up is because I think he got
Was he wrong?
I think he got it wrong.
Oh, God dang! Oh, shoot. So, I knew I should have researched that better.
Well, I think what he had said, and I don't know if he changed his tune throughout the week, but he said that there was originally only 5 exhibitors. And
maybe that's what I heard.
Yeah, and I honestly think it's 35 is the original.
Oh, really?
And I haven't verified that, and it's funny you bring that up because that's something I wanted to kind of check on, because I know the story of how the SEMA show kind of came to be, and it was a lady named Gigi Carlton who was Robert Peterson's assistant. Back in the 60s, she was a secretary by title, but she really ran quite a bit of the operation of Peterson Publishing when it came to events and publicity and things like that. But Robert Peterson ran the magazines and the business side, but entrusted Gigi as his lifelong assistant well enough to where today she runs the Peterson Foundation.
Wow.
So the money that goes to the museum is because of her. There's a tragic story that Peterson, the Peterson heir, there is no heir to the throne. The children were killed in a plane crash. Yeah.
Oh, no.
Right. So it was there was nobody there. So I know from talking to Gigi last year, because she was a 2017 SEMA Hall of Fame inductee, and we were talking about how she was tasked with basically putting that show together. So she was a go-getter, and she didn't screw around. She knew everybody in the industry, and I can't imagine that she put together all the booths, because she sold all the booth space and made all the arrangements and got the stadium and all that stuff. I can't see her doing that for 5 exhibitors.
You know what? You make a good point.
I could see her doing it for a lot of them, and it went up from there.
Right.
So the number that I heard was 35. I know that the source there was saying 5. I could be completely misguided on both. But so to answer, I don't know. How do we answer this? I'm going to say 35, but we don't really know until we look it up.
Okay, yeah, we don't have. Maybe I'll do a little bit of research throughout the show here.
There you go.
We'll try to get something going here.
Right. And we, I could be completely wrong on both of those numbers, but I'm going to say 35.
Okay.
Because there was
35. It is.
What I think is fascinating is that a lot of the companies that we use today were there. So
really,
Edelbrock and some that aren't really in business any longer, Schiefer clutches and stuff like that. But Ed Iskandarian cams, Iski cams, he was there, and there's a long list of companies that are still in business that were at SEMA show number 1. It was pretty cool.
Huh.
Yeah.
Interesting.
As he looks it up.
I'm looking it up right now, man.
But he ain't going to tell me because it's the end of the show. That's what we got to do.
That's exactly.
All right, well, I'm going to
Sorry, everyone, you got to wait.
I'm going to throw you a softball.
Oh, thanks, buddy.
And I'll tell you why this came up afterwards. But in the 1970s, I'm sorry, I should have asked. Are you ready for this? You ready?
I'm ready.
Okay.
I'm ready, Freddie. Let's do it.
You're doing your thing. It's all good. But I don't want you to later on to go, I wasn't paying attention, so I answered it correctly. In the 1970s, as you know, the Chrysler Corporation hired a spokesperson by the name of Ricardo Montalban.
Oh, dear Lord.
To expound the virtues of the Chrysler line of products. And he often talked about a characteristic of the leather in these Chrysler products. Are you
serious?
I am serious. I said it's a softball.
It is.
So it's a 2-part question. What was the kind of leather that Ricardo used to talk about? And the second part of the question is, and what was it?
Oh, in what car was it?
No. What was special about the type of leather that...
Oh, what? Okay. Well, part number 1, it was in the Chrysler Cordoba with the rich Corinthian leather.
Very nice, yes.
What was special about it? Oh, man. That I'm not sure of.
There was a really...
Didn't stain? I don't know.
It didn't stain.
I don't know. I don't know, man.
Whenever Ricardo said stain proof, they said that just didn't have the...
No, it didn't really didn't mean much. Oh, no. Gee whiz.
All right, hold on. Let me write this down. So, Corinthian leather, we got from part A.
Yes.
And part B is stain
resistant property.
Car leather.
God damn it.
which it's a very valid guess. Even long before minivans, people would stain their car seats. So,
right.
In fact, I have a manual for either a Buick or a Cadillac or something, like a glove box manual, and it goes into great detail on how to remove urine stains.
Oh, come on! Jesus.
In case you have some sort of harrowing driving experience, or you don't get home in time, perhaps.
That's a hell of a long road trip.
Yeah, well, maybe it is a Cadillac thing. I think some of our senior drivers, might be.
Oh, well, yeah, there you go.
On the ragged edge of control.
Oh, man.
Well, Ricardo, it was kind of funny because I don't know how I got on some YouTube rabbit hole and I saw an interview with him. And, I really miss that guy. Mm-hmm. You wouldn't think that you miss him, but you miss him too. And what we both miss about Ricardo Montalban is he was a staple on our TV screen when we grew up.
Sure.
He was
Fantasy Island,
and then he appeared in soap operas and the Colbys and sitcoms and the Wrath of Khan and the Star Trek.
Wrath of Khan!
Yeah. He was all over the place. And they would drag him out in other situation comedies and stuff. Mm-hmm. And the guy died in 2009 and gone, poof, off the screen. And I saw an interview that David Letterman did with Ricardo in about 1987. Mm-hmm. And this guy was the man. He was so articulate and so smart and so just such a great, warm personality that it's, we need more guys like Ricardo Montalban. And his parents were Spanish immigrants to Mexico, and he was born in Mexico, and then came to the United States and started working in Hollywood and in New York City. But he talks about how he appreciated tremendously what the United States had done for his career and his livelihood, and he looked at Mexico as his motherland and the United States as his motherland's best friend.
Oh, is that right?
Right, and that was such a great way to look. And it was very timely because today, on the news we're seeing immigrant issues and all this stuff.
Right.
And I thought, this is a guy who got it and made it work and did it right,
It's, God bless him for it.
Yeah. And in that interview, he talks a little bit about the Corinthian leather.
Is that right?
Yeah, because, of course, Letterman put him on the spot.
Well, of course.
And it's kind of funny because you mentioned the car, the Chrysler Cordoba. And Ricardo talks about how there's a town in Mexico called Cordoba. Cordoba. And he gets hired to do this, pitch man for Chrysler. Uh-huh. And he said, "What's the car?" And they said, "Oh, it's the Cordoba." And he went, "Oh, yes, the Cordoba." And they said, "No, it's Cordoba." No. And then he went, "No, it's Cordoba."
I can hear it now. I can hear it now. The Chrysler Cordoba. Cut! Ricardo, come here. No.
Well, but he was a pro, so he said, "All right, I'll say it however you want me to say it," knowing that it was a Detroit-based marketing term and not named after the city in Mexico.
Right.
But,
right.
So I thought, the Corinthian letter would be a good two-part trivia question. So
I appreciate that. I appreciate the first part. The second part, I'm lost with. Mm-hmm. I'm probably gonna realize it as soon as you say it. Like, oh, of course.
We'll see.
We'll see.
Eventually, we will.
Yeah, and I do have my correct answer.
Oh, right on.
But we'll find out at the end of the show. Yes, we will.
Fair enough.
We'll see who was right and who wasn't right. We'll see.
I guess we'll find out.
Yeah.
All right. So, the big thing, there's two things I want to touch on. One is just happened and the other one's about to happen. So the just happened was the SEMA show, and what's going to happen is the MCACN show. And I don't want to forget about talking about MCACN. And if we have, any of our listener who gets bored and tunes out, I don't want them to miss the MCACN part. So there's not only the trivia as a hook, the MCACN thing's
MCACN's a bigger hook.
Yeah. So, but you, my friend, have survived your very first SEMA show.
Oh, man. I'll tell you what, man. What an experience that was.
So I guess the big question is, was it even in any way close to what you were expecting?
Nope. Not even close. The sheer scale of that place, the 3 different buildings, the annexes outside. I only got to spend 2 days there, and I barely scratched the surface of everything there is to see there or everything there is to experience there. 4 days even is not enough.
No.
To really drink it in. I mean, you got to go and go and go to really, I think, experience what SEMA is really all about. And the people I met that you introduced me to, and just the whole vibe of the place was just so great. Everybody was cool. Everyone was happy. All the exhibitors were cool. All the stuff they had out was phenomenal. I got to tell you, it just blew my mind. Just blew it up.
Yep. Well, good. It's an unbelievable experience, and I've been doing this a long time, and I've never seen the whole show, and I've resolved myself to understanding I never will see the whole thing, because there's seminars going on and education things and displays and press events and all that at the same time, so you can't see it all.
Right.
And what you really need to do if you're on 2 feet pounding the show is try to do as much recon ahead of time. And now that you've been through it and kind of understand, the next time you go, you're able to look at the SEMA app and the magazine and the website in advance and say, all right, well, these are some things I'm trying to accomplish here. And I think there's several levels of that, because there are the displays with the manufacturers and the retailers and the new products, and also the cars that are on display, which you can set out to make contact with. But the other half, at least, is things that you cannot anticipate.
Totally. Oh, yeah. I mean, oh, God, where do I begin? Man, I'll tell you what,
there's chance meetings of people that you don't know today, but however you meet them, you bump into them in the hallway or somebody introduces you, whatever. And that could take a turn that changes the whole direction of your show. Yeah.
Well, I still have my chip hand.
Right. Yeah, right on. It was pretty cool.
I got to meet Chip Foose and shake his hand, and this is my chip hand from now on.
There, you still haven't washed it.
No.
Yeah, I see Chip's getting a beard there a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and that was pretty cool, too, the way that went down.
It was.
Because so my schedule was, I was not able to actually go into the show until after 4 generally during the week, because I had a commitment to be working at that SEMA Central stage, which was killer. But at the same time, it was nice to be able to go in the show. So you and I and Kelly, right?
Yeah.
Were hanging around, checking some things out, and the show's supposed to close at 5. But if you linger, sometimes you can hang out a little bit longer. Mm-hmm. And was that the day we were at the Ring Brothers display?
Yes, it was.
Yeah. So, and that's a funny experience too, because Ring Brothers built a Blazer, and we went out trying to see some of the cars, towards the end of the day.
Right.
And we ended up spending about a half an hour at the Ring display and didn't even talk to the Ring Brothers. Really?
Right. Yeah. Talking with everybody else around there.
Right.
Talking with the car owners, the people who own that beautiful K5 Blazer for forever. They were cool, and the wives. I mean, they were just awesome.
Yeah. So I think Jim Ring was talking to the actual car owners for a little while, and Mike was talking to a couple guys that he just met from Wisconsin that they bonded, and you and I were talking with Dan Kahn, who's on the SEMA board. Right. And also owns Con Media, and just chatting about stuff. And then, Mike Ring's wife was there. And next thing you know, we're all just having a conversation like we've all known each other forever. And when it came time to finally move on and leave, that's when we saw your buddy.
Yep. My new best friend.
Well, how random was it that Chip is just walking up he's just trying to go wherever he's going.
Right. Probably trying to get to his room to change and go out and do whatever. But it was a heck of a chance meeting, and I didn't have to wait in line for 3 hours to shake his hand and say hello.
Yeah.
So this was pretty cool. This was really cool.
It was cool. And what was your impression of meeting Mr. Foose?
Seemed like a cool, down to earth guy.
Yeah,
totally unpretentious, not arrogant, Really cool guy.
Yep.
A genuine cool guy.
Yep, totally. And that's how he is. And it doesn't matter if you're, sometimes, he's like you're saying before, he's in an autograph signing session or something. There's no opportunity to just BS and hang out.
Right.
But walking the aisle of the show on the way to the door, you had a good 3, 4, 5 minutes. And he was just telling us a story of finishing up that 57 and
right.
Working with the guys, and it's just like any other car guy,
Thrashing, doing that last minute SEMA thrash, getting it out the door, getting it ready for the reveal.
Yeah, well, that was crazy. 4 days before we bumped into him, that car was no front end, no doors, no top, no interior, and then to be a showstopper, within a week.
Yeah, it looked like it was found in a bad neighborhood, all stripped, for Pete's sake.
Yeah, right. All it was missing was the milk crates.
Yeah, no doubt. So, in case I don't get a chance to say it later on, I know I said it privately to you guys, but I just want to say publicly, thank you from the bottom of my heart for taking me, for including me in on this. This was a real car guy dream come true. Honest to God, I mean, this was like car nirvana.
Well, and I'm thank you for that. I'm so glad you're able to attend, because you're the kind of guy who would appreciate that.
Yeah. And I do.
Oh yeah, I know. And
I'll appreciate it even more next year.
There you
Get
go.
it?
Hopefully, they moved it back a little bit, so you don't have to worry so much about Halloween with the family,
right?
Because that's always a sticking point. But there are people who go to this event, and I think they, whatever their experience level is in the industry, or their involvement, I should say, doesn't give them the opportunity to take in as much. And so, for example, if you can imagine working for a big manufacturing company, and it's your job to fly out there in advance, put the booth up, and then maybe hang around and make sure that the thing's clean throughout the week and everything, and then go home. And if you're not really a car enthusiast, you might just be there as a logistics person, or somebody who works in their warehouse or something. Those people are there because those functions are needed, but those are the people that might not get that experience or that gratification out of going to this event. Or the appreciation, I guess. So I knew you would dig it totally and get a lot out of it.
I did. I really did. I mean, it really makes me wish that my livelihood was in the automotive aftermarket. I mean, I wish I could somehow make that work. That would be phenomenal.
Well, what's amazing about this industry is that it's fueled by enthusiasts, genuinely. 99% of the people that work in the industry like cars, and that's a common thread. And they get excited about this stuff, and they want to do it well. And that example I mentioned before of even kind of the fringe people, they still think this stuff's neat. And I was joking with Paul Cuniff, and Paul is the guy with Freeman, which is the company that does the actual management of the show, and they're the ones that manage the hall, and they're a giant facilities company, and Paul's, he's at the top over at Freeman for the SEMA show, and we were joking about this, and I happened to say, I can't see people getting this excited about a dental object convention. And he starts laughing, and he goes, we do one of those. He said, my wife runs one, and it's not the same.
No, I bet it's not. Oh my Lord. That's hysterical.
Yeah, it was, but every industry, has its trade events, and some are not that exciting. The car world is definitely exciting.
Oh, totally, without a doubt. I mean, there's people there who eat, drink, sleep cars. And that's really what, like you said, it's driven by enthusiasts, and that's what really keeps it powering forward.
It's very enterthusing.
It is quite enterthusing. I'm going to hit up Webster's to have that entered in.
There you go. Submit that, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, the other thing that's so cool about it, for me anyway, is the people that are there. You know, for the other 360 days a year, or for some exhibitors, it's only 340 days a year. The people that work on that show, you know, they work in the car enthusiast aftermarket industry, and they make parts and whatever. But they're still car people. So when you get to the show, you might be talking to somebody who's the VP of a company or the president of a company. Mm-hmm. And I think in other situations, we'll use our dental implement example. Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, the only commonality that you would have is because you might work in a dentist's office and this guy makes dental stuff. But when he goes home, he might be into fishing, and you go home and you're into GTOs. At the SEMA show, everybody's still into cars, even when they're not working, right?
Yeah, that's perfect. Exactly.
So you can talk to anybody you want there and ask them what they've got in their garage, and they're going to tell you a story about their own project car or the car that got away or whatever. And I'll use this as a segue to because you were there actually doing some recordings, which was cool.
Yep.
Recording some interviews for this podcast. Mm-hmm. And one of the guys we kind of sicked you on is one of my favorite people in the industry, and that's Rick Love from Vintage Air.
Right on. Yeah, he's a great guy. Rick's
a great guy. And a true hardcore car enthusiast from, you know, muscle cars and street rods and customs, you name it. You know, this guy's totally into it. And that's what's so great about talking with Rick, is because, you know, you could be intertwining your personal project stories with what Vintage Air has to offer, and it all just kind of blends. You know, and that's what makes everything so powerful, is because when you know, I guess you tell me, you talked to him for a little while. You know, how was it like?
How he was cool. I mean, he's very knowledgeable about the products that they have there, and the stuff that they were coming out new, especially for '69 Camaros and their display panel on the Vintage Air unit. He just was really a likable guy. So well, it was easy.
Let's roll the tape.
You got it. All right, this is Mike Clark from V8 Radio, and I'm here with Mr. Rick Love from Vintage Air. Rick, having a great time at SEMA.
Always, Mike. It seems to be a little more of a circus every year, but that's just why we look forward to it, I guess. You know, that's part of it. But I think this year the crowds have been good, and lots of good stuff so far.
Terrific. So what's new with Vintage Air today?
You know, we've got a lot of new products this year. Some of the things we're most proud of is we've just debuted our new replacement control panels for 67 to 69 Camaro. Right on. We've got one panel for 67, 68 center stack and one for 69, and they're bolt-in control panels. Fully electronic, direct connection right to our Gen 4 module. So if you don't want to retain the look of your factory control panel, or if you can't find an original factory control panel, these will bolt right in and into the original locations. They're LED backlit, give you a variable speed blower, variable temperature blend, and variable air blend, and so you get all the electronic functions of the Gen 4 in a little more modern looking panel.
Gotcha. Sounds like that makes for a really comfortable Camaro.
It does. And again, it kind of updates the look of a little Camaro a little bit, you know, depending if you're going to customize the dash a little bit, and just gives you a little bit of an option if you don't want to use the factory controls.
Gotcha. So how long has Vintage Air been in business?
1976. So
is that right?
A few years, yeah. We've been around the block for a while now.
Sounds great. Well, listen, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thanks for coming by, Mike. It was great to talk to y'all.
Enjoyed it.
Yeah, so I guess they've got a new control panel for the second gen Camaro. And again, Vintage Air is a company that gets it. You know, they make stuff that either adapts your original controller, and they realize that some people don't want that stock look, so they come up with the one that you were discussing with Rick there. Mm-hmm. And they wouldn't have this stuff if they weren't into it, genuinely, organically into it. True. So I think it did a great job with that interview, and we didn't, throw you to the wolves, so to speak. We tried to find people that
Right.
were fun to talk to, and Rick was
Right.
definitely one of those guys. So that's cool.
People that would be receptive to me coming up to them.
Yeah, yeah.
I appreciate that.
And that's what he's there doing all week anyway, is telling the story of their new stuff.
Uh-huh.
And we certainly use a lot of it. In fact, we've got a 71 Camaro in the shop right now that we'll see if it ends up with one of those new controllers or not. We've got to ask the customer.
Right on.
So we have a long, it's a multifaceted relationship. We're buddies, we're customers, we promote their stuff, so that's another aspect of the SEMA show experience, is to start that personal relationship with people that make parts that your shop might be selling, or installing.
Right.
And, now, Rick's the kind of guy that if you had a problem on your GTO with your AC system, you could call him and go talk directly to him, And again, I'm not saying that everybody should do that, because they definitely have a customer service team.
Right.
But on a conceptual level, he would know that you guys had that conversation, you met in V8 and all that stuff, and he'd be like, "Oh yeah, I remember Mike. It's all good."
Right. Yeah, that's very cool.
Yeah, it is. It is. What's interesting to me is how, until you step back and either participate in the various levels of that organization or that event, it's hard to see the other sides. So, for example, the people that build cars. So we've done 10 SEMA cars over the years. And so we're no strangers to the deadline and the thrash and the quality level and the logistics and getting it out there and all that stuff. But it's funny because SEMA isn't a car show.
Right. It is not a car show.
So cars are definitely part of it, and the SEMA is a business trade show. I mean, that's what it's for, is for connecting buyers and sellers of stuff and designers and engineers and marketers. And they showcase their products on cars that are built. But every once in a while, I'll see a conversation online or talk to somebody who doesn't have that experience of talking with manufacturers or retailers or whatever, and they might be a builder, and they say, you know what, I don't know if there's any value in doing SEMA because we thrash like crazy to build this car, and then what happens? People check it out and whatever. And what they're missing is, again, building the car is a small component of what that show is. And it's not like a good guys event where you build the car, show your car off, and chances are there's going to be 20 people there that want you to build one.
Right.
So what you get out of it is purely what you put into it, from networking, talking to people, reaching out, getting involved in the organization. Because the SEMA organization, the way I look at it is, in many ways, it's like an industry safety net, because SEMA exists so that shops like mine can be more successful.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, well, SEMA exists so that guys like you can enjoy your car on more levels, because there's more successful companies to buy parts from.
Right.
Because they are opposing legislation that's trying to take and limit your hobby and limit your car usage. There are so many things that organization does that are not glamorous, like that show, that you benefit from every day, and you might not even be aware.
Yeah, that I get it. Yeah, it's pretty awesome that they're out there fighting for the end user, and as well as the industry itself, which go hand in hand to keep this industry thriving and alive and strong and growing. Yeah. So
absolutely, and they have all these alliances and councils that people can get involved with. If you're in the industry and a member of SEMA, one, for example, is the Hot Rod Industry Alliance, which is a bunch of people that are in the hot rod parts business, or shop owners or builders or whatever, and they have meetings throughout the year to discuss the health of their subset of the industry, and discuss legislation and all this kind of stuff. And they're all volunteers. It's a volunteer thing. Nobody gets
Wow,
paid.
no kidding.
Yeah, for real.
Oh, jeez, I didn't know that.
And what's neat is that you might be in a room with your number one competitor, both on the same council, but everybody takes their company hat off when they walk in the door, and they all understand that they're doing this because if the industry is stronger and better, they're all going to do better.
Yeah, right. You have a bigger thing to worry about, a common goal, as it were.
Yeah, totally.
To see that you both succeed.
Right, exactly. And to me, it's more of a selfless cause, and especially when that's tied to being a volunteer position. So there's all this giving. The trade organization is giving back to the industry. The people that work in the industry are giving their own time to help everything. So what I've learned is the more you can give, the more gratifying it becomes, and eventually it all comes back to you. So those people that show up one year and say, well, I put all this time in this car and I didn't get any leads, I hope that their vantage point expands and they understand after maybe attending a couple of years or getting involved that that's not what it's about. That's not where the benefit lies.
I get it.
Well, I know you do.
Kevin, I get it.
Well, and it took me a long time to get it myself. I mean, the first couple of years I was there, I was selling ads for car magazines, and I thought a successful SEMA for me was getting a lead that I could sell an ad to, and then I win. And I almost looked like I was rushing into this giant gold mine, trying like the money box, the fan blows and the dollars are flying around, and it's like you only got 30 seconds, grab up as much as you can for yourself and get out. And now I realize no, there's so much more to be gained, by talking to people and listening, and it's certainly also about making those business connections and
right,
especially for the buyers and sellers and designers and manufacturers of parts. But it really is it's a higher level thing, and it's very admirable. It's really cool. Like you said, it's neat that it happens because
it's ridiculous. It's awesome.
So from a parts standpoint, anything really jump out at you that you wanted to investigate further or check out while you're there?
Well, I like looking at aluminum heads all the time. I'd love to get a set of those. So that's definitely a goal. But I'm trying to think.
Was that like over at Edelbrock or?
Yeah, exactly at Edelbrock. Yeah, they have a lot of nice offerings over there. They really do.
Yeah, they do a nice job of displaying them too. The heads are on racks, so you can kind of spin them around and look at them and stuff.
Right.
And,
that's good stuff. What was your favorite car there at SEMA?
That's a great question because I didn't have a whole lot of time to spend looking at cars. I was lucky enough to get close to some that we featured in that SEMA reveal.
Right.
I really did dig that Kindig Corvette. I also I got up close and personal for very short periods of time with most of the cars at the SEMA Cruise, which was insane. So they take, it's not all of them, but almost every car and truck in the show and lead them out the front door and drive them around to the backside of the campus there, where many of them would go into the SEMA Ignited and others get loaded onto trucks and go home. So a guy named Joe Sebregandio, who I used to work with back at the magazines and the TV shows, he's been the host of the SEMA Cruise for many years and was gracious enough to bring me on as kind of the co-host. And he and I tag teamed that cruise, and it was so much fun. It was probably the most straight up fun that I've had at that event in a long time, because it's the end of the show. The show's actually over. Now it's everybody's cutting loose. Joe is a great guy. He's way laid back. He's pretty sarcastic. He likes to have a good time. So the mood is pretty loose. And we started off by doing helping the on-camera crews with the Battle of the Builders TV episode, which is going to be on Velocity in January or February.
Oh, right on.
Because they crown the Battle of the Builders at the SEMA Ignited event after the show.
Oh, I gotcha.
All the Ignited cars, or the Battle of the Builder cars, were there. And the hosts of that show are, you remember AJ from Overhauling.
Yeah.
Adrienne Janik. She's a co-host. And Tanner Faust. And I don't know if you know Tanner. Tanner's a rally car driver. Drifter.
Yeah, I know the name. I don't know him personally, though.
Tanner is a super cool guy. And I interviewed him in 2009 for the Optima Challenge event. We did that DVD for them a long time ago for Optima. And he was one of the participants back then, and now he's hosting stuff, and just a great guy. He's in a film coming out, as a matter of fact. They're making a theatrical version, finally, of the 1966 Le Mans victory, where Ford came in 1-2-3 and beat Ferrari at Le Mans in '66, and he's in that film. So
no way.
Yeah. So while they were doing their TV stand-ups in between, we had the opportunity to interview those people and get the crowd wound up and everything. So that was really cool to see him and AJ again. And
that's very cool.
Yeah, but the cars came by for 20, 30 seconds at a time, because it's basically a parade of everything that came out. And, ironically, I saw a couple of Buicks that I liked.
Oh, really? I'm shocked.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. And I made sure to tell the crowd what they were looking at, because, my only friend, Charlie Lillard, he had his 65 Riv is done, and it was there, the white one that was in the Holland.
Yeah, that thing was off the hook, man.
It's insane. Yeah, it's on a Roadster Shop chassis, and it's a 1,000 horsepower LS9.
Good Lord.
And it's quiet and comfortable, and people didn't believe that was a 1,000 horsepower car when it was riding past. And Matt, who's one of the guys at Sled Alley that did the work on that thing, he was driving, and I kind of put him on the spot, stuck a microphone in his face, and said, tell me about the car, which I'm not sure he appreciated.
Oh, no. Oh, jeez. Man.
So that was cool. There was a 58 Impala that was all hand-carved. Did you see that thing?
No, man.
It appeared to be in bare steel, and it had all the body panels were done in that Japanese carving technique where
you're kidding me.
It's all scrolled, and it was insane. Oh,
wow.
And it rolled through the cruise, and if you were sitting in the stands, you saw that it was just kind of a glistening silvery looking thing. But I made sure to point out to people that whole thing is hand carved from end to end, and it was just unbelievable. So I would Google that car. I don't know who built it or what it's called, but that's one that was really, really intense.
Huh. That's pretty slick. I wanted to backtrack here for a second. A trend that I noticed. You mentioned that you worked with Joe Cibergani.
Cibergandio, yeah.
Cibergandio. You worked with him in the magazines, and a lot of the people that you introduced me to were people that you used to work with back in Hot Rod so many years ago. And I thought it was really cool to see the longevity that this industry holds for a lot of people, that they make a pretty decent career out of it. And, the transitions they make throughout, and you all kind of regroup here at the mother show, as it were, of SEMA, and can still hang out like you used to back in the day. So I thought that was pretty cool.
That's amazingly cool, that happens. And, I've mentioned this before, but it's interesting when you leave a job, many times, people make a lateral move. They'll go from a job title X at company Y, and then they'll go to be job title X at company Z. They just kind of slide across. What I found, and again, it wasn't by choice. I went to the magazine company by choice. I had no idea what would happen,
right?
Long term. And the great thing is most of the people that there's still a couple that are still there, 20 some years on. But the companies have bought and sold and changed hands, and things change. But the cool thing is, most people that have left didn't make lateral moves. They went up and out, right? So they went from the magazine, they went to a manufacturing company to do PR work for, we'll say, Edelbrock. That happened. Or they started their own media company like Dan Kahn, and now they represent the Ring Brothers. Or they went to SEMA, and now it's Peter McGillivray, the vice president who runs the whole SEMA show.
Right.
Or it was Ira Gabriel that I introduced you to, who was my former boss at Hot Rod, who's now one of the top PR guys at SEMA.
Yeah, cool guy.
Yeah, very cool guy. Or Sebergandio, who used to be in the events department when he and I worked together, and now does events for SEMA. And it is really cool to be able to have been in that circle from kind of the inception, at least the inception of my career professionally, and to be able to stay in that and keep those relationships and see that everybody's doing way, way cooler stuff now. But when we all get together, it's like we all have the silly stories of what happened 20 years ago, and we joke about it, and it's really, really neat.
Yeah, I dug that. I really did. It was neat saying, I used to work with this guy at Hot Rod, and this guy I worked with here, and all that. It was kind of a neat coming together.
Yeah, right.
So.
Well, maybe then you saw that I wasn't completely full of crap.
Not completely.
I owe all those guys a lot of money, for. Yeah.
Yeah, that was neat stuff. I really enjoyed that a lot. That really meant a lot. So.
Well, that's cool. Yeah. Well, and I thought it was great. Ira, in particular, was convinced that you were in the industry somehow.
Yeah, he thought I was a guy. That I was an industry guy.
And he's like, no,
man. You're like, dummy. You tell him yes.
No, yeah. Well, he just kept saying, no, I know you from somewhere, right? You've been there, and it was funny. It was cool. I mean, because you're contextual. You walk the walk and know the stuff. So why not? Of course.
I've been a car guy my whole life, and
right.
I was a dealer. I worked at a dealer as a mechanic, like an apprentice mechanic, when I was in high school, and always did all my own stuff on my cars and all that stuff. So. Yeah, I'm definitely not an industry guy, but I'm an industry guy. I'm a car guy, so
I think a lot of people wouldn't. I think a lot of people would have a hard time believing that you're not an industry guy, technically, that you have a career that's outside of the automotive industry, because you are so into this stuff.
Yeah. Well, maybe someday I'll make that really happen.
Well, I'm not saying it would be good or bad. You certainly have a good thing going, so you got that. The classic example of that is Nick Scavo, who is genuinely an appliance repairman.
That's right. Oh, I forgot about Nick.
Yeah, exactly. Everybody thought he's pro racer and shop owner or whatnot, and now he fixes washers and dryers. Does well at it. Second generation, I guess, is the company's been around since 1956, and he's keeping it going. So
shoot, I need to call him. My dishwasher's busted. Holy cow!
Yeah, you do. There you go.
Oh, my goodness.
There is all these higher level connections that happen at that show, and it's good for the soul. It's a neat. I don't want to use the modern definition of a safe place, because today you hear about these people that can't handle reality, so they need to retreat to a safe place. No, this is somewhere where it's cool to be a car guy, and it's fun to go fast and talk about cars and ideas, and it's neat when there's no crazy idea at the SEMA show. And what I mean by that is, there's nothing that you can't say to somebody where they're going to go, oh, that's ridiculous, go home. They're going to go, yeah, right. Man, that's awesome. You need to do that.
Well, case in point, you had on stage the winner of the, what was it? The Who sponsored that engine award?
Oh yeah. So it was JE Pistons with their Motor Masters Award.
Right. A guy builds a 904 cubic inch double overhead cam Hemi engine.
Yeah.
For Pete's sake. Who does that?
Oh, totally. Yeah. And he was that's Gentleman Jim. He was a Top Fuel funny car racer. He drove the Hearst Hemi under glass for many years. Mm-hmm. The wheel standing car and all that stuff. Yep. And he just thought it'd be a great idea to advance the technology of the Top Fuel Hemi, and his first direction was to make it overhead valve, or overhead cam. So it's a dual overhead cam Hemi. And then he realized, if we move the stroke around a little bit and space the bores out, we can get this to be over 900 cubic inches.
Yeah.
So,
and wouldn't you know it, he did.
And it was running in a 32 Ford of all things. So
yeah, my gosh.
Right. That would be crazy if you were down at your local Cars and Coffee. Right?
You're right. It would be.
Everybody would say you're nuts, But this guy did it. And here it is. Yeah. It took him a long time, okay, but
right,
a very, very cool story and a great example. I'll never forget. I think it was my first SEMA show in '97 or so, and I went to the banquet on Thursday night. And the SEMA banquet it's an awards banquet for the people, basically. So throughout the week they have different types of banquets, but as far as like the SEMA Person of the Year and some of the personal awards, those happen on Thursday night. And they usually have some pretty good entertainment. And this particular year was Jimmy Vaughn, Stevie Ray Vaughan's brother, the blues guy. Yeah. And I wanted to see the band, and I ended up sitting at a table with Fred Cantor. And Fred Cantor owns Cantor Auto Products. So you've seen that page in the back of the magazine.
Yes, I have.
Any magazine. For the two companies he owns, one is PST, Performance Suspension Technology, with the polygraphite bushings. That's him. And then the other one is Cantor Auto Products, which is like bearings for your Hudson and Packards and all this, all the way on up to whatever. And it was just luck of the draw. I ended up sitting next to this guy. And I don't know if you remember or knew of it, but around that time period, Chrysler did a concept car called the Atlantic, which was a modern take on an old Bugatti Atlantique. And it's a beautiful, beautiful car. And for some reason, because it's the SEMA show and you can talk big ideas and everybody's game, I was BSing with Fred Cantor about the Chrysler Atlantic concept car. And he said, I drove that car. And I said, really? You're kidding me. And he was at the time the Walter P. Chrysler Museum, and got a chance to drive that thing around in the Chrysler campus. And I said, this is incredible. I said, for me, I'm not the biggest street rod guy, but a neoclassic like that, I would kill to own one. Yeah. And he said, well, we should build one. We might be able to get molds off the one that they built. But what would you think for power? And I said, well, it's the original was a straight 8, right? So at the time you could buy a Dodge Neon. I said, how cool would it be to take two Neon 4-cylinders, put them end to end, and have a dual overhead cam straight 8?
Oh yeah.
And of course, because he's Fred Cantor, he says, well, I got a whole bunch of Packard straight 8 with Lycoming superchargers on them in storage. Whoa. We could just use one of those. I'll just have the head cast in aluminum and save a bunch of weight.
Oh my God.
So we came up with this whole build, like a couple of kids, just kind of
love it,
throwing crap against the wall. And Jimmy Vaughn played and yada, yada, yada. Well, about 3 weeks later, I get a box in the mail, and it's a plastic 1/24th scale Chrysler Atlantic concept car that Fred Cantor had sent me.
Oh my gosh!
Which is still sitting on a display cabinet at my house today. So
how great is that?
Yeah, and I call those SEMA moments. They're just these things that you cannot predict, but if you put yourself out there, this stuff happens.
No doubt, man. Oh, man, what a great story.
Yeah, it was cool. And to me, this year, my big SEMA moment was seeing Gene Winfield roll up on his scooter.
Oh, right on.
To the SEMA Central Stage. And for those who've been following that whole deal, Gene's 91 years old, and not even a month before, he had broken his hip while attending a car show in Finland where he was chopping tops on custom cars. And he fell down and broke his hip and had to have surgery. And there was a big concern that he wasn't going to... He needed special medical transport to get back to the U.S., and it wasn't covered by insurance, or the funds weren't there or whatever. So a big GoFundMe campaign went off, and we did a video on it and tried to help raise money for him. And that's the last I had heard. And then all of a sudden, here he is rolling up on a scooter while I was at the Central Stage. And I go over to the side and I said, Gene, and he goes, do you have a minute to do an interview? And I said, yeah, are you kidding me?
We'll find a minute.
Yeah,
we'll find two.
We will make a minute. And it was great because at that moment, I was supposed to be interviewing Chris Kirsting, who's the CEO of SEMA, he's top dog of the organization.
Right.
And I tell Chris, I said, hey, I said, you see that guy? And he goes, yeah. I said, that's Gene Winfield. And I tell him the story real fast. And he's like, oh, yeah. Well, you got to interview him. You got to get him up there. Yeah. And I said, well, of course I really want to do that. But I know that Kirsting's schedule is regimented to the second all through the SEMA week. And I said, I can't bump you back because, it would domino everything. And right. Well, he said, so let me look at my schedule. So he looks at his schedule and he says, well, if you can do me in the next 6 minutes, I can get out of the way, and then, or if you can do him in 6 minutes, then I'll be ready. I said, tell you what, let's get your interview out of the way, and then we'll have a few more extra minutes for Gene. So Chris is like, okay, well, let's go, let's get this done. So we jump on stage, and Chris does his big, SEMA, his annual SEMA, Central Stage interview / presentation, and he does it. At a slightly tuned up speed to accommodate this guy, and finishes up and says, I gotta go over and say hi. So he comes down and he says, Gene, my name's Chris, and I just want to say thank you for coming to the show and for making the effort to be here. I know the ordeal that you went through. And Gene says, no, this is great. I'd never miss a SEMA show. I'll do anything I can to be here. And Chris said, well, that's really phenomenal, and we appreciate that. And Gene says, so what do you do? And Chris says, well, I'm the guy who is, I guess, currently responsible for all the stuff that's happening here. So thanks. And he takes off. And Gene goes to me, what does he do? And I said, he's the CEO of SEMA, for crying out loud. And he's like, oh, man, that's really cool. And I said, yeah, he really wanted to talk to you. So
that's phenomenal. How legit is that guy? Gene Winfield, my gosh.
Oh, totally. But what you see again is the commonality of car people. And it doesn't matter if you're a customizer or the CEO of SEMA. There's this mutual respect for everybody.
Right. It's a brotherhood.
It's a brotherhood. And the next challenge was, so I tell Gene, I said, okay, you're up, but you're in this scooter, and how am I going to get you up on stage because you just had this hip replacement? And he said, well, I'll walk. And he stands up. He's got these two crutch things, and he kind of hobbles his way over and sits down on the stool and says, let's go. And,
wow.
And I'm like, you're kidding me, man. So I didn't want to take much of his time because I didn't know if he was in pain or whatever.
Right.
He didn't give any indicator that there was even anything remotely amiss with his physical being. Jeez. And he says, he tells us the story a little bit about being out in the world and he got hurt and whatever. But people that's a topic, but it's not who Gene Winfield is.
Right.
And luckily, I had met him in the late 90s. I'd been to his shop in Southern Cal, and he's got this book. He's got a biography book that is incredible. And I asked him, I remember him telling me a story that's in his book about how he had a Mercury tow vehicle and a flatbed trailer with a race car, And he left his shop in Southern Cal and went to the dry lakes at Muroc, I guess, and took the race car off and ran it and set a record. And then I think he pulled the fenders off the race car and ran it in a different class and set a record. And then he unhitched the Mercury and ran the Mercury and set a record. And he stopped me and he goes, yeah, there was 4 of them I did that day. He said that was in 1947. And he set 4 records with 2 cars in one day. And they changed the rules. And nobody's been able to do that ever since.
Oh, my gosh.
And he remembers it like it's yesterday.
That's amazing, man.
This dude has been building cars for 7 decades.
Jeez.
And is in his 9th decade of life. And he said he really is looking forward to getting home after SEMA because he's working on a Riddler car to be unveiled in March in Detroit.
Oh, my Lord.
Yeah. And I turned to the crowd and I said, look, here's a guy who's, 7 decades into building cars with a fresh broken hip, not even a month old, and he needs to get home. And he's chopped 19 tops in the past year alone at different events all over the country. I said, what are we doing,
Yeah. Yeah, we're a bunch of ham and eggers, man. This guy's the real deal.
If that
oh, my gosh.
isn't an inspiration or a wake-up call, I don't know what is. So
It's something.
Yeah.
My Lord. It's amazing that he still has that kind of drive at that age and still wants to do stuff, and it's what keeps him young at heart, and just having something to look forward to and something that he loves to do.
Yeah, you're right though, that drive to keep doing that stuff and the ability, it's like what Bobby Unser said, the ones who are successful have that persistence, and that desire. Desire is a great word. And Gene's still got the desire, so he's still rocking and rolling.
Still burning bright, too.
Yeah, totally. And just super generous with his time and always nice to talk to and wants to help everybody. There's he's just a great guy. So it was very cool to see him there.
Yeah, I missed it, unfortunately. God darn it.
Well, that got recorded, so that particular interview, I'm sure the SEMA YouTube page will have it at some point.
Oh, good.
If I see it, that's one that I wanted to ask the guys that are doing the post-production if they'd mind letting out early.
Yeah, let it squeak through.
Yeah, I don't really have any say in that stuff, but it would be cool to see it.
No doubt.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Yeah, but that was a whirlwind, man. Mm-hmm. Well, a whirlwind experience. It really, really, really was.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you made it. And again, the first one is always kind of the giant kick in the teeth. And if you can come back, then you can start to get a little bit of a handle. But it probably took me a solid 5 or 6 years to really kind of get a handle on what was at least happening around me. Mm-hmm. Still not fully benefiting from it. I still think there's always more to get out of it than you do, no matter what you do.
I agree.
But the first couple of years, I just walked around, drooling, looking at the ceiling, I think.
Oh, yeah. But also that, I said it before, and I think in our last episode, that SEMA app really, really saved my bacon. I think my favorite feature was you had your map and it had a locator feature to it where you could say where you're near and where you want to go and hit locate, and it plots a route for you to follow, and you can find anything you need to find.
Yeah, that's killer, and that's a pretty new feature.
Yeah, which is great for me because if it wasn't for that, I would still be there trying to find my way out of there.
Totally.
I'd have signal fires going. I'd try to radio for help. It would be brutal. Yeah.
So. And I'm looking forward to seeing that advance because I think it would be really cool. That app does a great job of mapping out the different displays and the appearances and whatnot. But all that information is kind of pre-programmed. It would be pretty neat to be able to add things to that. So, for example, did you see that awesome orange C10 truck?
Like
where
drop
is
a
it?
pin somewhere.
Yeah. It's over in TMI. Oh, where's that? And then here's the app. To be able to do that.
That's a great suggestion. Yeah.
Because the cars a lot of times aren't known 2 days before. Who's going to be in a booth? Things change. Something didn't make it. Something different pops. Whatever. So.
I thought it would be cool to for people that want to see the cars that are entered into the battle of the builder to know exactly which booth they're in.
That's a great one. Cool. Great suggestion. Yeah. That was one of the most popular questions that I got all week.
Is that right?
Where do I see this car? And part of the trick there is they would be like, they would just say a name. Where's? I'm just trying to, because the week was such a blur. So Kyle Tucker in Detroit Speed had the black Camaro that won. That's called Tux. Yeah. So people were asking me, where's the Tux Camaro? Well, I didn't necessarily know that that's what the name of the car was.
I see.
Or, where's the car that, that Damon worked on or whatever? He might have been a team member of a shop.
I see. Well, or where's the Kindig car? Well, he brought 10 cars. Can you narrow it down a little bit?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, exactly. So a little, and I think that not to do the typical thing where it's like, hey, great app, but what's next?
Right.
But I think that'd be a nice evolution of what could be even more possible.
Right.
Because a few years ago you didn't have anything. You had a book and a map,
Oh man!
And it was a challenge.
It's brutal. No doubt. Huh? Yeah, but that thing was money, because when I was going around getting interviews, I knew where I was. I knew where I had to go. I'm like, oh, I'll go here. Otherwise, I would spend forever trying to find a particular booth that I needed to get to. So
yeah, and I think you got 8 interviews.
I did get 8 interviews, yes, sir.
That's a lot, so it's cool.
Yeah.
Maybe in a few future episodes we'll meter those out.
Yeah, dig it. Yeah, we don't want to push it all out right away.
Well, if I would stop flapping my gums, you'd have time for it.
Nonsense, my friend, nonsense.
So was it fun approaching those guys and getting those interviews, or?
It was, well, like I said before, doing that is a little out of my wheelhouse. And as they say, if you're not comfortable, you're not growing. Mm-hmm. And I will say that I grew quite a bit. So it was a little uncomfortable. But as they went on, I felt a little more comfortable approaching these guys and trying to ask better follow-up questions on the statements they gave me, and try to use what's around me as part of the interview. So I was able to do that at the Forge Line Wheels booth, which I interviewed Steve Shark.
Steve Shark, yeah.
Yeah, Steve Shark. So that was a good one. They got a nice new carbon fiber wheel vendor, which they look fantastic. So.
Yeah, that's cool. And the other challenge there is that those were not scheduled, so you were purely kind of coming up and hitting them cold, and it's nice that they were receptive to those. Yeah,
I was happy about that too. So, I just throw the Kevin Ostie name around there and things happen. Let me tell you.
Yeah, all of a sudden everybody's busy.
Yeah. No, I will say this. I did go to the MagnaFlow booth to talk to Richard Waiters, and there was a room there, and he was behind closed doors, and there was some guy that was in front, and I said, "Hey, is Richard available?" And they're like, "Do you have an appointment?" I'm like, "Well, no, but Kevin Ostie from VATV sent me down here to talk to him and to see if he had a few minutes for an interview." I was like, "All right, hang on a second." He goes back. 2 minutes later, Richard Waiters comes out. "Hey, how you doing?" I'm like, "Right on."
Yeah, nice.
Kevin really has clout.
Well, that's Richard being gracious, of course. but at the same time, he's a very busy guy.
Yeah, he was a busy guy.
MagnaFlow, as you saw, is far more than an exhaust company. They put so much into brand ambassadors and influencers, and over the years they've had Mario Andretti and everyone from Iron Man, Ivan Stewart to Foose and MMA fighters, and they've always got personalities there, racers and whatnot.
Right.
Robbie Gordon, I mean, it just goes on and on. So Richard is kind of in the middle of all that, and it was very cool of him to jump off and spend some time with you. So that was very nice.
Yeah, that was nice. Good, nice guy, real nice guy.
Very good guy. So, great. He's a great guy with a lot to say, and I'm glad you got that recorded, because a lot of times I have conversations with him and I have to go back for like the next week and try and figure out exactly what he's talking about, because he's on a different level on so many things when it comes to marketing and how to handle branding and brand positioning and the perception of your company and the direction. I mean, he's really, really in it. At the same time, he's also the guy you'll see on the TV shows TIG welding exhaust systems together.
Exactly, yeah. I do remember seeing him on like overhauling.
Yeah.
When MagnaFlow was a big sponsor there, and they're putting kits together, and he's has the welder out and he's doing it. He's actually doing the work. So, respect.
Totally, yeah. He's still doing that for Bodie Stroud and a lot of these builders, Foose, and I met him when he was running the tech center at MagnaFlow, where they were looking at new cars and digitizing the factory exhaust and kind of reverse engineering their performance stuff. And he was running the dyno and doing those machines. And now he's way at the top. He's doing that for the whole organization. So I'm bummed that I didn't get a chance to see him myself, but I'm glad you got a chance to talk to him, because he's...
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, he's
good
got
stuff.
a lot to offer.
Yeah, I'm going to do more of that at MCACN show as well. Try to get some more, quote, man on the street interviews.
Right
on. Some of the people out there, so...
Speaking of which...
Speaking of MCACN, hell of a segue, Michael.
Yeah, great job. Yeah, I did want to just throw a plug out, because as we're recording this, it's Monday of what I am calling... the Muscle Car and Corvette Nationals week. This is MCACN week now.
MCACN week.
It's not.
It's a thing. It's a thing.
I think it is. And we have talked before a little bit about our MCACN After Hours Live web stream that's going to happen Saturday night. So all week we've been doing short videos, kind of pre-selling this, and then doing a look-back video of a previous year of MCACN, because this is the 10th anniversary of the Muscle Car and Corvette Nationals. So, and we've been shooting video there forever. I think we only missed one of the MCACN shows.
Is that right?
And it's one of my favorites, ever. So super excited about the live stream. Also super excited about shooting other video and seeing people and talking and whatnot. But what we're trying to do is we've got a simul stream that's going to happen. It's going to go to Facebook and YouTube at the same time. And we have a bunch of streaming partners that are sharing this as well. So the main one is the Mecum Auction Company has stepped up to help sponsor this thing and share it. That's a real big one. OPGI is doing it as well, as is showyourauto.com, and then, of course, the Muscle Car and Corvette Nationals themselves. But the list is growing daily, which is cool. So now our friends at HTP Welders are going to be sharing the stream. Our friends at the Mopar and Muscle Cars at the Strip event, which happens in Vegas in the spring, they're sharing the stream. The Muscle Car Place, which you've heard Robert Kitty's podcast in the past, he's going to share the stream. So with those and a few others that are under our umbrella, Muscle Car of the Week, VATV, whatnot, our social footprint right now is at 1.78 million possible sets of eyeballs on Saturday night, which is super cool.
That's super cool.
Yeah. So, and I think we're going to add a few more by the end of the week. Oh, Rocket Racing's another big one. They're going to be
nice
sharing it as well. So, hopefully, we'll hit the 2.5 million potential audience footprint size. And there are people that have checked in from as far away as South Africa and Australia that are jazzed to watch it. And
ticket.
Yeah, we've got about 30 cars lined up.
No way.
It's huge. Yeah, I don't know that we're going to hit them all, and I know for certain that others are going to try and jump on. We're also going to be talking with a couple of the artists from the show, of course, Bob Ashton, the organizer, and some other sponsor people as well that are also part of the show. In fact, tomorrow's look back video is an interview with John Cramen from MCACN. And Cramen does the on-air commentary for MCACN. And this one goes back to 2015 when MCACN brought 16 cars to the MCACN show.
I remember that.
Yeah, and they were all going to be sold at the Kissimmee auction, so they brought them out to the public. So interestingly, MCACN has an auction in Vegas the same weekend as MCACN in Chicago. So a lot of their guys aren't going to be there, right? So I'm trying to find a cool way to integrate MCACN into our coverage, for helping us out. And I think what we're going to end up doing is doing some recap of Saturday's action live on our show.
Oh, nice.
We'll look up some of the top sellers. Hopefully they'll be able to get that data together fast enough, because the MCACN auction ends, I'm going to say 6 or 7 o'clock in Vegas, and then we go live at 8 o'clock in Chicago.
Ooh.
It's about 2 hours difference. 3 hours probably with the time zone change. So we'll be surfing and hopefully be able to share that stuff a little bit, a little bit after the fact. But.
Okay, all right. Well, that'll be fun putting that together.
Yeah, well, and you've got a big part of it.
It'll be fun not screwing that up, putting it out, people. So, when things go wrong, people, address your letters to cueball@v8radio.com.
Yeah, because you'll be operating the switching equipment, and which will be fun. I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be super cool.
I am totally geeked about this one. So, for sure. Like you said, MCACN is my favorite muscle car show of the year by far. Yeah. Such a variety there of everything. It's amazing, and how they put these collections together. I mean, I know that they spent over 2 years putting that E-body, that Hemi convertible E-body collection together. I mean, that's the commitment that Bob Ashton and company put into this show, and that's how it becomes. That's why it becomes and stays such a quality show.
And again, it's all enthusiasts that want to see these things happen, so they happen. Again, it's not forcing somebody to come up with the first 8 dental instruments ever made and put them on display because nobody cares. But when you say, "Hey, we got 3 Hemi Cuda convertibles coming," and then somebody goes, "Well, I know a guy who's got one. We got to get his. I'll call him." And then that guy goes, "Well, I know there's a blue one over there. I'll call that guy."
Yeah. And then, if that dirty dog is going to go, I'm going to go. My car's better than his car.
That's right. And then you call the Brothers Collection and they send 9.
Yeah, God dang it. Yeah, they win.
Well, but everybody won. You and I won because we got a chance to go see them.
Yeah,
and
we get to
that's
look
what's
at
so
all
cool.
those cars,
So the displays are going to be off the hook. It's a great time, and the other fun thing now is, so this year you're going along for the ride even more, having done SEMA and then that one. Yeah. And then, of course, the PRI show coming up right after that. So I really dig that. I'm not a winter guy. I grew up in Chicago. I know the snow. I know how to drive in it. I know all about it. I moved to Southern California when I was 25, and I had 350 days of sunshine.
God.
And then I moved back to the Midwest.
Thanks, honey.
And I love where I live, and I love the shop, and it's only the weather that is the problem. And I'll tell you, the sunshine we get from SEMA and MCACN and PRI really helps make the end of the year something special, because for me, it's certainly not the clouds, the snow.
No kidding. I agree with you 1,000% on that.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, cool. We got our MCACN plug in.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I know I've rambled on enough. I'm still battling a bit of a cold from post SEMA craziness.
Post SEMA wipeout.
Yeah, totally. So let's hit our trivia questions here.
All right. Well, I asked you how many exhibitors were at the first SEMA, and you were right. I did hear Troy say that. I'm like, I don't think Kevin was listening. I'm going to use that as my trivia question.
We have to understand.
Little did I know.
I heard that every hour and a half. For
oh,
4
damn
days
it!
straight.
Really? Gosh darn it! Well, the original answer was 5, which is not correct. You said 35. Which is also not correct.
Good.
The correct answer, according to our friends at Wikipedia, is 98 exhibitors at the first SEMA, and with over 3,000 people.
Well, I'll tell you what.
Up.
GG Carlton doesn't mess around.
GG.
That's cool. Well, good. I'm happy to lose that one.
Yeah, me too. I lost that one too. I had the wrong answer.
It was your question.
It's a double loss on one question.
Yeah, how nice.
Oh, gee whiz.
All right. Well, on
how
your
bad?
side,
How bad am I that I lose my own question? I mean, honest to God.
You're an innovator, is what I will say to you.
I know. I'm the worst. I'm the worst.
Okay, well, the flip side was our buddy Ricardo Montalban was hawking Chryslers for many years, talking about the two-part question. One, what was the name of the leather in the car, which you easily got as Corinthian leather.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But B, what was special about Corinthian leather? And your guess was that it was stain resistant.
You get the urine stain out.
You just pee right on the front seat, doesn't even touch it. It's Europhobic.
Okay.
Well, it might have been, but that wasn't the thing that was special. So they asked Ricardo what the deal was with Corinthian leather, and he said, there is no deal.
There is no deal.
It was a name that Chrysler's ad agency made up just to add some significance to it.
Add some quote-unquote class to the product.
Well, that's it, and he said he described it accurately as saying it was a trade name. So it was just a trade name for leather. So. All
right, Ricardo.
Yeah. So there you go.
Oh, there you go.
And it's Cordoba.
Yeah, Cordoba.
All right, man. Well, this was a lot of fun.
This was great. This was really great.
Yeah. These are always good when we got a lot to talk about. So looking forward to the next one, which will be our post-MCACN recap, most likely.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then we'll hear some of your man on the street stuff. We're going to have a library of that.
Yeah, we are. We'll have some content.
Yeah, how about that?
Finally.
Yeah.
Finally.
Yeah, right. It's a busy time. Might as well utilize it. And don't forget, if you dig this stuff, go ahead and click that little subscribe button. We do well on iTunes whenever we publish one of these things, and it kind of fades away. So hopefully we can stay on that third column and get into the second one.
Keep riding that wave.
That's it. And of course, we're also available on Google Play, on Stitcher, on the TuneIn Radio app, of course, our website at va8radio.com, and on Facebook. Please follow the Facebook page because it's a nice way to add commentary. We know our friend Frank, who you'll be able to meet in person at the MCACN show.
Right on. Looking forward to that one.
Frank and Frankie Zimkowski will be out there with their GTO and the Buick Grand National. Frank always plays along in real time, answering the trivia questions on the Facebook page, and we appreciate that. And he doesn't give it away either, which is good.
Yeah, it is good. Thank you for that, Frank.
Yeah. So that's another way to find it if you haven't had enough of us already.
And he's right quite a bit of the time.
Oh, he's sharp. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a smart guy. He lives this stuff, and that's what's so cool. And that GTO he's got is off the scale.
Oh, it's pretty. It's a nice car, man. Can't wait to get my grubby hands on that.
Well, he's one of our after hours interviews, so
good.
That will be cool. All right, well, that's about all I got, man. I guess until next time, my name's Kevin Ostie for Mike Clark. Keep the shiny side up, and we'll see you next time on V8 Radio.